Kaori over here, and I'm with Ryan. I said your name, that's fine. And
Anne.
you get to say your name.
Yay!
Yay! All right, guys. We are going to be starting with this episode, podcast / YouTube thing about murder mysteries. Not ones that are not true, but true crime documentaries that we are obsessed about.
Yeah.
And the case is kind of up in the air, like, did he really do it? Did he really not do it? Who are the accomplices? Who are the suspects? Who we think did it? And these ongoing things that are sometimes tragic, right?
Agreed.
So what we want to start with is the Serial podcast. With
season 1.
Season 1, Sarah King. Not season 2, because that was
Who
Cave.
Yeah.
The crap. So let's talk about it. We have so much to talk about, so we're just gonna start and see how far we go with this one, and maybe we'll talk more later because there's so much ground to cover.
Oh, absolutely.
This has been ongoing for so long, and we're still like reading up on things like we just learned. So, in case you haven't listened to the podcast, go back and listen to it. But also, like the premise is this guy. His name is Adnan Syed. He's an ex-boyfriend of this girl named Heyman Lee, who was found murdered, and he's in jail because he's charged with the crime. But there's a lot of holes.
There's a lot of holes.
A lot of holes, and we don't know if he did it. I don't think anyone knows he did it. He's claiming his innocence. He's in appeals. He's waiting for his court case to go again. And there's just a lot of mysteries and discrepancies. And
It took place 20 years ago.
And it took place 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And sadly, I feel like if it happened sooner, I mean, like more recent times, it would have been. He just had a shitty lawyer.
There's a lot of things.
Just,
I don't even know where you want to start with this.
Right?
Yeah.
So I mean, let's start like really at the core, right? Do you guys think he's innocent, or do you guys teeter towards he did it? Right? I mean, that's a good starter.
I will say at the beginning of this that I believe he had a role in the murder
Okay. At the beginning of what?
of our little news show.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to just say definitively, I've always, since we've finished all the podcasts and all the other extra things we've listened to, Ravia's podcast and all the other things that have been done on the case, I want to say I do feel like he had something to do with the murder.
Okay.
I don't think he did it on his own.
Got it. Okay. Ryan.
I kind of lean that way too. I could maybe lean a little bit more towards he didn't do it. It is possible. I'm like with Ann. I don't think he did it the way that they say it was done. He might have had some knowledge of it, but he wasn't a mastermind murderer in this.
No.
And like you said earlier, there's not a lot of evidence proving he did it. It's a lot of kind of assumptions.
Yes.
There's a lot of people saying, well, I saw him in the library, or he drove this far, and if you really do that drive, it's just not possible for someone to get to the Best Buy in time at rush hour like they think he did.
Or the cell phone towers aren't clicking well,
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. I'm leaning towards, and heavily towards, him being innocent of the crime.
Great. So we're all kind of different on this.
I mean,
good.
obviously I don't know for sure, but he's really just because he's fighting his innocence doesn't mean that he's, innocent. But I just feel like there's too many things that just don't make sense for him to be the one to do it. And then when we were listening to Undisclosed, his, I guess you could say his like
Family
big
friend.
sister, family friend, she had like, those police tapes where they were like tapping Jay, who was like the main guy, to pin it on him. The police, you could hear them tapping him to give him cues, right?
Yeah,
So
he
that's suspect.
it seemed coached.
Yeah.
Like they're like, okay, say this now. Like it's real fishy.
Yeah.
That guy's real fishy.
I think Jay had something to do with it.
I think if the evidence, the way it was presented and the way we have consumed it, the court should have never found him guilty.
Yeah, right.
There was enough evidence
Reasonable
there to
doubt.
say reasonable doubt, retry the case, let's figure it out.
Right. And I mean, you think about his motive, right? He doesn't come off as like, he seemed really chill, and I don't know what he was like back then, but he doesn't come off as someone that has vengeful blood in him.
Right.
They had a breakup. She was dating another guy. Why aren't they even looking at the other guy that she dated? Like,
Yeah.
that really triggers me too. That's the new person in her life.
Yeah.
And suddenly he was scot-free, like, oh, well, this happened. Okay, bye. It just doesn't feel right. So, what are some of the holes that really bother you in this?
Well, he has one witness that says he was in the library during that time,
Right.
so that's one
And then
possible reason why you couldn't have done it.
Well, yeah. Well, during the first trial, she didn't want to put that. She didn't want to say it, and her admitting it in recent times has granted him a new retrial.
Yeah, that is the piece of evidence that is bringing this case back.
Yeah.
To life. But I think for me, you know, just having gone back and listened to a few of the episodes again recently, I have to say Sarah Koenig does a good job of that first episode sets up your curiosity about the trial.
Oh yeah.
But she starts with, do you remember what you were doing 6 weeks ago? You know, it's a very simple question that you can ask somebody, and I guarantee you I do not remember.
Yeah.
But when your life is on the line and you have to account for every minute, you would think you could at least maybe remember what you were trying to do that day. And I think that's what gets to me the most about Adnan is that he cannot remember all those minutes and even an hour of when the murder happened. That's what's most disappointing to me.
But wasn't he high as hell?
He probably was. I mean, it unfolds. You find out more and more, and probably he might have been.
I just find it really suspect that, like, Jay's his drug dealer, and why the hell would Adnan rely on Jay to help him? Because Jay's like, well, yeah, I know what happened because I was kind of an accomplice, so let me go. Like, if I had a drug dealer and he was just my drug dealer friend, and I killed somebody, I wouldn't be like, I'm gonna call that bad guy, that drug dealer.
Yeah, it's really weird, bizarre. Their relationship is bizarre.
Also, pretty sure Jay gave 2 interviews to police, and they were different each time.
Yes.
So,
and he's
he lied. One of them's a lie, or both are a lie. So.
And he also doesn't want to talk to Sarah Koenig, nor does he want to be in this trial.
Yeah.
And like, I know. Well, I don't know, but I really think Jay knows.
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
I mean, let's just disclose what Kaori and I initially wanted to name our whole podcast series, which was Jay Did It. I mean,
Jay did it.
if there's any bonding moments in at least Kaori and I's relationship, I have to tell this story because entire drive to Vegas, just her and I, spent listening to Serial, and then driving back, spent listening to Undisclosed. So it was just, we were obsessed and absorbed in the trial as soon as you introduced me to it. But every step of the way, we're like, Jay fucking did it.
Yeah.
Like, there is just so much.
There's
so much against him, and they just never even wanted to probe more into that.
And they even have friends of Jay that are like really shady when it comes to getting questions asked. Like, I forgot her name because it's been so long, but when they questioned like their best friend and they're trying to add the jealousy, I'm like, what? Like, it's not that crazy.
Yeah.
And Heyman, like, what does she have to do with it, you know?
No, it's just everything just doesn't fit. It's
It
like puzzle
doesn't
pieces
fit.
that don't fit together. And I think the thing about Adnan is, like, I wish he could have just said, oh, you guys, I was like really high. I'm just being real here. I was really high during that hour, so I can't remember shit.
Yeah.
You know, I'm maybe prosecutor would be like, well, if you're high, you probably could commit murder when you're high, but I wish he had something to offer. That's what gets me.
Yeah. But he also, like, well, let's flip the switch on me, right? What makes you guys think he did it?
He doesn't know what he was doing at that time, and he has the only person, one person says he's in the library, but
yeah, and don't they find, like, he knows a little more than an average person would have, like, didn't they find the shovels, and like there's accounts of both of them saying like they both had shovels and buried. Now I'm trying to remember.
I know.
I swear,
we'll talk more about
they're
that.
intertwined as well. Him and Jay. I think the buddy, the duo. I feel like together something happened.
But then it's odd because you never hear Adnan say, "I think Jay did it."
No,
Right.
I know his character, like his composure and his character throughout the whole series and all the other interviews. I will say he's held up. But to your point. to your credit, like for wanting to say that he's innocent, like he has never flipped the switch like at all. In this whole thing.
He's never. But also remember, I think Sarah went to his church or something. Yeah, and then they were saying he stole money sometimes, and then that one time Adnan flipped the switch on Sarah. I was like, oh my God, are you calling me this? Right. But that was the only time that in the whole entire series that we saw Adnan mad. Right.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of discrepancies, the timing, the cell phone towers.
The cell phone towers, that's another one.
Yeah. And then how do you be like, oh, I'm at Best Buy, you better come up here and I have a dead body here? Like, it's just, I don't know, it's just weird.
And then I think in just the atmosphere, I know Baltimore has a really high crime rate, especially like murder and murder mystery. So Sarah does a good job of bringing in the environmental like factors that are happening too with the police and how they could be involved in it as well. I feel like she presented a very balanced,
very good,
like telling of what happened. Whereas in some of the other mystery things that we watch, it's like, just like, dude paid off the media to tell the story like this. So I think Sarah did a good job of not going into the bias of like
playing Switzerland.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times people have interviewed her like, do you think he did it? And I don't think she has an answer for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I'm not sure. I had something in my mind, but do you guys have anything else to say about it so far?
I mean, I think the victim, if we talk about a little bit about Heyman, there was really nothing on her because she really gave no reason
That's the thing.
for her to be murdered, really. Like they said, she was an A+ student, very well liked. Even when they described Adnan and her relationship, it was a good relationship. I mean, for high school, that's all you can ask
Pretty
for,
much.
right?
Right.
So there wasn't like a big falling out to where people were like, well, yeah, they had a really bad breakup, so he probably killed her. Like that. For what we know, none of that.
It could be just a random crazy guy that just killed her.
Yeah.
You know?
Because we haven't even gotten into the guy who found her.
Yes, the guy who found her was
Weirdo,
a suspect.
Comes in at like episode 7 or 8 or whatever. It comes in a little bit later and you're just caught off guard because the whole time you're like, it's either Jay or Adnan.
Right. And then Jay the whole time, maybe he was freaking out that I'm a drug dealer, I'm here with the cops, or they're out here for my drugs, they're gonna catch me here. So maybe I'll say something to like set me off the hook. Maybe the cops were like, okay, we're gonna send you to jail for their drugs unless you testify against Adnan. Like they're just, and those things happen in the force, you know.
I know.
So
especially 20 years ago, there's no real internet. There's no.
No.
A lot of this stuff could, if it was like Anna was saying, if it was nowadays, what was I doing 6 weeks ago? Instagram. Oh yeah, I was eating dinner. Here we go.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
Facebook or whatever. You could track all that stuff. But back then, there was none of that. So.
no, there's not. And I really do hope he gets a retrial soon.
Yeah, it said he was granted one 2 years ago, and he still hasn't gotten it.
Yeah, so they're just keeping him in jail. Oh, let's mention also he had a really bad lawyer.
Yes.
Yeah.
A really
Christina
bad one.
Gutierrez, I think, is her name,
Yeah,
and
like-
she passed away.
Yeah.
So
She didn't even put the guy. She didn't even put the one like key witness who saw Adnan in the library to the stand.
I know.
You know, and even when we were listening to the podcast, I would get frustrated with some of the questions you would hear her say during the trial. Like, oh my god, you know.
She was not a good lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah, really bad. I mean, talk about unfortunate for him. And, you know, rest in peace. But the fact that she's no longer around, we can never know what was going through her mind. I mean, I think Rabia was the one that was saying that she had a lot of things going on. She had, like, I don't know if she had money issues, but she definitely had health issues.
She had money issues towards the end.
Yeah, so there's so many other factors that we'll just never know if they played into that.
I know, and I hope we get to solve the mysteries soon.
Do you feel like you know how she was murdered?
I feel like it was just like a fight somehow, and she got her ass beaten, died, and the person, it could be the ex-boyfriend. I mean, not the ex-boyfriend, the new boyfriend. You know, because
he had the one alibi, which was he was working, and then that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, sure. if people say they saw him at work during that time, like that's the alibi.
But
right
is
there.
it really though?
I don't know.
There's a lot of criminals that say that, and then they're like, okay, and then they go back and like, wait, you really weren't.
Right.
They just didn't dig enough.
Right.
They just wanted to get that case solved really fast, and
Feels like
someone
it.
is in jail for it.
Mhm.
And it's crazy because Adnan is about our age.
Yeah.
Yeah, he graduated. Well, he would have graduated the same year I did.
Spent
Yeah.
now probably more than half his life in
Yeah.
prison now.
Think about all that we've accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Still trying.
still trying.
That's another podcast for another day.
Podcast. Keep trying. But yeah, so I think maybe we can go back and like kind of review the case and come back and talk more about it.
Yeah, I think for now I'll say I think Adnan had something to do with it. I don't
Okay.
think he's completely innocent. I do think that he should not be in prison because there's enough reasonable
Yes,
doubt.
I agree with that.
And we can definitely go into details later. I think Jay had obviously something to do with it, and I will say the place, sure, I think they figured out the place. I think in terms of how, it sounded like she was strangled, and then they
Yeah.
used shovels
That's
to
right, that's right.
semi-bury her, which was not even good enough because she was still like
She was
On
up
the surface.
Yeah, she was hanging out
Yeah.
with the leaves.
yeah, and then the fact, and the hard thing about these cases is when they find the body months later, it's just so hard to figure out like
Right.
what happened during the passage of time. You know, like
Did they
where was
find
her
it
body?
that long after? It was like maybe 2-3 weeks.
I think it was like a month.
Oh, okay,
So maybe
okay.
not months later, but maybe about a month. I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah.
Just unfortunate to that everything that went down.
it is, and I hope, and you know, HBO is doing a documentary on them.
Yeah.
There's so many little documentaries that every time there's one I watch. Like now, Justin Brown, who is Adnan's defense attorney, he has a show. I think you saw it, right? That was a good one.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's kind of one-sided, but it had so many different snippets of why it's impossible that his client did it.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And pointing the finger a little bit at Jay because, come on, Jay, you know what's up.
Yeah.
If you're watching us,
I do hope through this, you know, like us chatting about it, that I see something I didn't see, because I think that's
Yeah.
what's most fascinating. I think that's why we tune into these kinds of things, is because it's like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be saying this during this episode, and then next week something else, because
Yeah.
you guys bring up something I don't know.
we definitely need to refresh our memories, but also like, I think that it just, I forgot what I was going to say, but go ahead, guys. Anything else? That's it for now?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's re-adjourn next week, and then we'll continue talking. Let's think about each one, maybe like 3 things that make us think he did it, and
Yeah.
3 things that make us think he didn't do it. And you guys do the same thing. Do the same homework. Comment below. Let us know. Do you think Jay did it?
Clearly.
Adnan did it? Or what are your reasons? And do you are you following the case? And what other crime documentaries are you intrigued by? Ann and I are gung-ho passionate about crime documentaries. We have so many in our arsenal. This is why we're starting this podcast.
Staircase.
Staircase,
Yeah, coming.
The
Yeah.
Jinx, which you need to
Yes,
watch.
I will have
The
seen it by the
Jinx.
time we talk about
That
it.
one's a good one.
For sure.
I mean, we know who the murderer is, without a doubt,
Yeah.
but it's still like so many things to talk about. Anyways, thanks for stopping over. I'm Kaori, and you can follow me at KAORIOUS, and over here,
Ryan at RY Myers 25 on Twitter.
Twitter, Instagram, and Campion, the both of us at Team Amasian.
Yep, that's us. And so comment below, thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll catch you again for another Clue-ish Clue podcast.
Bye.